Amy, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I know that we
Yeah,
don't have a
thank
lot of
you,
time. I only got
Richard.
an hour here, but I'm
Yes.
super excited to do this with you, and I can't wait to see what's happening. Yeah. Before we get started, Tatu, have you paused all of your downloads? Awesome. I just wanted to make sure my producer has paused all of the downloading he's doing so that we have a perfectly clean internet connection.
Okay.
Right. Well, what we're going to kick off with is I would like to know your story, because everybody in this industry has got a story. They're all different and they all seem to be epic. So I'd like to know what your epic story is of how you got into this
Yeah.
industry and how you landed up where you are.
Yes. Oh, I'm happy to tell that. I love telling my story. It was life-changing. For me, this industry has been life-changing, as it has been for so many. So I love sharing my story, especially with those considering coming into the industry, to say if someone like me can go and start something I've never done before and see a life change, and then now be able to help others do it. Anybody can do this. So it was 23 years ago that I started in the industry. I was at a party plan company, and I had been to many of those parties. I had so much of that product, and but I had never been offered the business opportunity, even as a hostess. Never, no one ever said, "Have you ever thought about doing this?" Until this one night. And so the first time I was offered the opportunity, I did say yes. I was scared to death. The person that you see today, that's not who I was. I was very shy. I had a very low self esteem, had never sold anything in my life. I was that person. I was the least likely in the room to do this. And so I'm so thankful that she offered the opportunity to me. And I let her know right away, Richard. I let her know I will not be sponsoring. I know that she was definitely very passionate about building a team, and she let me know that right away that she would be helping me sponsor. But I said I'm not going to be sponsoring. I'm just going to sell this product. And so I think she took that as a challenge. I think she took that as a, well, we'll see about that. So, needless to say, very quickly, ladies were approaching me at my parties asking if they could get started. I didn't even know what that meant. I had no idea what a comp plan was. I had no idea that there was overrides. I knew nothing. And it wasn't until I got my first commission check, and I know I'm using terminology for 23 years ago, but this is what we called it. I would get my commission statement, and I saw an override. And my spouse said, "What is this?" And I said, "I have no idea. They're paying me for what people are selling, and I have no idea where this money's, what this means." And I said, "I don't even know who these people are." I said, "They've just come to me." And then my lady, I used to call her my lady, she's my recruiter. So my lady's just helping, she's getting them started, and she's, supporting them. Well, he informed me that night, my husband informed me that night, that I will begin to talk about the business, and I will begin to share the opportunity to earn money with the business. And so I did. And then he gave me a challenge. And this is where the competitive side came out of me. He said, "When you're making this much money with this business, you can quit your full-time job." And that's all he
Oh,
had to say.
wow.
That's all he had to
Sure.
say. And so within
What a
6 months,
challenge.
I know, within 6 months, I was able to quit my full-time job and move into this industry as a career. And of course, I've never stopped sharing how this industry can impact your life. And so my passion became helping other women. And I didn't know that God had put in me the desire to train, the desire to teach others and to help. And when I saw all that coming out and my confidence building, and then we're debt free and we're paying cash for vehicles, all that was just life changing. And I'm like, I have to be able to impact as many women as I can in this industry. So then I went to the corporate side, and I don't know if we're going to touch on that, but I did leave the field, chose to leave the field, leaving that no ceiling income. just so that I could impact as many women as possible, and went to the corporate side.
So that's exciting. I mean, and again, this is the story that I hear so often. But the question I want to put to you is, was it easy? And did you have to work hard?
It was not easy, especially at the beginning, because I was working a full-time job and I had a little boy at home, and I would go straight from work to my parties. And my lady who recruited me said, if you do 2 of these a week, you will grow in this business. If you will do 2 of these. And I just took her literally, and I just booked, 2 events a week, and did that consistently. But it was hard work. It was very hard, and when I say hard, I always like to say, choose your hard. Like, I would much rather go and set up and meet women and show them my product and sell and help change their life. If that's my hard, I'll choose that over getting my baby up in the morning and having to take him to daycare, um, and needing to let somebody else raise him and be limited on my income. And you choose your hard. So I just tell people, you do have to work in this business, but the reward, oh my goodness, it makes it all worth it.
It's next level, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
And the thing is that what you said there, the ring is here, is that by putting the effort in the beginning, you set yourself free. I mean, that's what you did.
That's it.
And so many people will tell you, oh, this doesn't work. And I say to them, no, you didn't work.
Oh,
isn't that the way it is?
That's it.
Yeah. And so, so this is, for me, it's a huge issue around our industry, where the successful people, you look at them and you think to yourself, oh, what an overnight success. But what you miss out is on all of those evenings that they plugged away at the business, the fact that they were consistent at it, the fact that they learned their product, the fact that they studied the compensation plan, they understood how everything worked, they read books on the industry, and they grew themselves as a person, and that's why you succeed. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, it is. It's a process. It is. It's a gradual process, and so many that start in the industry are like me. They lack confidence, to succeed. They're women that, they're nurses, they're teachers. They just never saw themselves making 6 figures. They never saw the potential, and so it is really important that. Um, if you're a leader in the industry, that you are speaking into women and believing in them, um, and letting them make mistakes, but giving them experience. That was huge for me. I was put in front of people to speak when my knees were shaking. So you have to give people an opportunity to develop.
Yeah, and if you grow your people, you grow your business. I mean, that's the
So
bottom line,
true.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So, I mean, that's a lovely story and a wonderful journey you've taken, and well done. Congratulations. That's pretty epic. I want to move into a couple of issues here. The first thing I want to talk about is the product and how important the product is. And I tell you why I want to touch on that is that so many companies have got some generic product, they whack a big markup on it, and then the agents are out there trying to flog the product, but it's not worth the money they're asking. They don't believe in the product. They haven't been properly trained on the product, and that really is an extremely tough way to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
So how important is the product, and when somebody is joining the business, how important is it that they can relate to that product and really love that product?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, because, in my 23 years, I have seen it both ways. I have seen the lack of quality, but then I've also seen the quality. Now, with that said, I know companies can pull it off when they attach a really great mission to it. And because a lot of times men and women will buy into a mission and into a cause, and that can make a difference. But at the end of the day, I find that quality absolutely impacts retention and impacts whether you're going to have a field that is staying with you. But then also, um, when someone is deciding what company should I go with, I do believe that you should have some level of passion or desire around that product, around what it is that you're offering someone. Um, is it skincare and makeup because you want to help women feel more confident about themselves? There needs to be something in your heart that that wants to do that, right? um, Pampered Chef. You should probably want to bring people around the families around the table, or make life easier for working women to make meals easy. These are just things. So when you can help attach a mission or a cause to the product, I believe that impacts very much women coming in and staying.
And of course, the training around the product, a person can like the product,
Mm,
but if you provide them with the right kind of training, they can learn to love the product, and then
yes.
eventually they can learn to believe heart and soul in that product.
Great point, because you can love, even you can see someone else, what the product has done for them, how it's impacted their life. But then when you go to sell it, if you don't understand it or don't have confidence around how it works, um, the difference it makes, then your success either isn't going to happen or it isn't going to last long. So for a company to, from the front, out of the gate, help a consultant feel confident with their product, that's game changing, and it absolutely will impact their success and their staying.
And so, what level of training do you recommend around the product?
From the beginning, Richard, are you asking from the very beginning?
Yeah. So if I were to join your team, let's say you were running a team and I don't know, you're selling a product and let's say it's a skincare product, what level of training would you provide? What would your sort of your milestone be in terms of what you want to achieve with me to
Mhm.
get me into the, to believe in the product?
Okay, so I believe they should have training out of the gate on what the product is that they received from their kit, or from the very beginning, their starter beginning products. What do you, the zingers, the products that are the
Yeah.
zingers, the ones that they have to have that'll help them succeed right away. They've got to have training on that right away. That could look like a video, um, 10 to 15-minute video, giving them the features and the benefits of each of those products. Then separate opportunities, separate reels, just one product at a time. Role playing, what could it look like, what could it sound like, in your social selling, what are words you would say around this product. So helping them feel confident in speaking to and posting about each of their starter products. That's where their confidence is raised, and then you begin to add more products to that learning opportunity.
And of course, using the products, I suppose, is quite an important aspect.
Mm-hmm.
If you're selling something, you should use it, I
Yes,
presume.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You'd like to think that that would be a no-brainer, that would be assumed, but when there's product that actually takes time to reveal itself, whether it's weight loss, sometimes skincare, it can take some time for you to have personal results from it. But teaching a new consultant how to share someone else's story while you're gaining your story, that really can help. Um, but the sooner they can have their own story, showing results that their product has made in their life, um, that's when the money starts coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've noticed that the companies that really spend a lot of time training their people about the product, even if that distributor stops selling the product,
Mm-hmm.
because they've got such great training about the product, they continue to be a customer. And I found that very often to be the case. You know, the companies are really doing a lot of training, land up with a bunch of customers, even if they stop selling the product, because people sometimes
Mhm.
they find it too difficult. It's too time consuming. They don't want to do it for whatever reason,
Mhm.
and then they become great long-term customers.
That is true. That is true, and I do see value in a company having a certain percentage of their customer base having signed on with them, because I've actually seen them convert. You know, they come in, they just want to be wholesalers, or they just want to get a discount on the product, but maybe a certain incentive comes along, or ooh, I'm needing some extra money right now, and that's why it's beneficial to have your field also just being total users.
Yeah, 100%, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your compensation plan, I mean, we've mentioned it several times, but your compensation plan, actually, there's two things that seem to get people into the business: the product, because people are
Mm-hmm.
attracted fundamentally by the product.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second step is, why would I do it? Well, I can earn money. So when you talk to people about the compensation plan, how much detail do you go into? What do you think are the best compensation plans? How do you go about explaining that side of the
Mm-hmm.
business?
Yes, I think this is I have found controversial. Like different companies I've worked for, some out of the gate want you teaching them how to sponsor from day one. Day one you sell your product, you sell your earning opportunity. And then I have seen where no, help them gain confidence in the product, make sure that they're confident in their product, and then you teach them about the comp plan and the potential earnings. I don't know that there's a wrong way, a right or wrong way. Um, I can tell you from my personal success, it has been teaching them confidence in the product so that they can confidently share with someone else that they too can do it. Now, that should happen within at least 30 days' time, because the sooner they've got a friend starting with them and somebody else working the business with them. But I do feel like there's should be two levels to a comp plan. Where from the new consultant to the developing leaders, they're not quite the leadership. There's that initial not overwhelming, you get a 2% increase here when you have two team members, just super basic. And I believe that can be introduced within 30 days. But then after 90 days, this is kind of my formula. After they have sold consistently and sponsored at least two people within 90 days, then they would be introduced to leadership, the leadership level, and the potential of not only teaching people, but teaching others to teach. And that's where the fortune is.
And so when you're starting off, you would talk to them about the retail side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I buy the product, I sell it at a profit, I might get some volume bonus or whatever
Mm-hmm.
around selling the product.
Mm-hmm.
You might talk to them about, if you recruit two people, you'll get this little override, but that's kind of where the explanation ends.
Initially.
Is that correct?
Initially.
Yes. And then 90 days down the road, you want to take them, and that becomes a next step training. What is the next step? Well,
Right.
we teach
And
you
I
how to
use
become a
that
team
90
leader.
days use that loosely, because you always have your exceptions, because it's that 1 in 10 principle. So you're always looking for that 1 in 10 that, can move into leadership pretty quickly. Maybe they have experience in the industry. Um, and so we would introduce them to leadership sooner. But I would say the average person that is starting in our industry without any experience, um, they're not too overwhelmed after 90 days, especially if they've collected money. If they've made money and you're able to tell them how to make more, 90 days is a good place where they're ready to retain that.
Yeah, it's interesting. We looked at the data that we've got, and we discovered that anybody who's earned money within their first 6 weeks stays in the business
Mm-hmm.
on average,
Mm-hmm.
and people who have not earned money in their first 6 weeks
Mm-hmm.
leave the business. Do you find the same sort of thing?
Absolutely. Um, 6 weeks. If I'm being honest, I would love for them to stay 6 weeks, but I do see them leaving sooner. I try to encourage, and I think there should be something in place where there can be pretty quick turnaround of profit. Um, in revenue. So I, but I agree. 6 weeks is definitely very safe to say. It's just ideal. You wouldn't want them to be earning money any later than 6 weeks.
Yeah, because they're gone then.
Yeah.
And getting them back at that point is impossible.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you recommend field training when you sign up a new distributor? The person who's registered them, do you recommend that they take them into the field and actually work with them? How do you handle that side of things?
Just to clarify, are you asking if the person that sponsored them or maybe their upline
Yeah.
leader?
Well, all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm a new person, I sponsor somebody into the team. What would my journey look like
Mm-hmm.
from your perspective?
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to have to do with how long this person that sponsored has been in the business. My story is a good one for when you have a new person and you're wanting her to sponsor. That I believe that's the upline's responsibility to train her people until she gets to that 90-day point. So for first 90 days, I want new people completely focused on gaining confidence in their product and sharing the business, like inviting people to join them. And then that's the upline's responsibility to kind of help build her foundation. Then when we're transitioning her into leadership, then we begin the mentoring process. But the upline leader should be driving consistent field training for new people coming into her whole organization on a consistent basis. I used to do it twice a month, same days every month. So your team knows there is specific training for new people on these dates so that no matter when in the month you're sponsoring them, you have a place to go and introduce them to your upline, to the community, to the team, so they begin to feel a part of something. So yeah, I think equipping those field leaders with how to train their organization right from the get-go really can be make or break.
Now, is that a company responsibility to train those leaders on how to do their
I
field?
believe they should provide them with the tools. That's what I did, and once I went corporate, that's what I did. Creating checklists that the new person could use, and then a checklist that the sponsor. It's just like a side by side of this
Yeah.
is what you would want to be working on, and then the sponsor follows along with tracking her progress. So but I feel like the corporate is they're the experts. They should be the ones that saying here's the tools, and then it's up to the field leader to utilize them, be consistent, show up, and be consistent with supporting those new people.
Okay, so now I'm about to launch into let's say an MLM business. I'm having a look. I see this great MLM business. I'm looking at the compensation plan. What should I be looking out for? Should I be looking for retail commission? How much retail commission should I imagine is there? Should there be a volume bonuses? What should I be looking at when I'm looking at a new compensation plan, evaluating a business and whether I want to join it?
Well, would you agree, Richard? The average person doesn't know what to look for. They don't necessarily know because if they haven't done it
No, they
before,
don't.
they don't know. But when you're sponsoring, it's ideal to be able to offer them um, money as soon as possible and letting them know that I'll help you sell this much. If you tell me how much you want to make, I'll tell you what you need to do to make it. And it should just be very simple. Whether it's commission based, bonuses in the first 30 to 90 days, for reaching certain levels, that's ideal. But I just don't know that they, out of the gate, that they know what to even look for. So what I have found is attractive is to let them know you can earn money right away, and there is bonus opportunity, so that business minded person that is naturally business minded, that's going to speak to them.
Yeah. And it's quite amazing. We've looked at this, we've got a lot of data on this industry. And what we found is that the vast majority of people who succeed in our industry are ladies.
Hmm.
We find that it's quite a female centric industry, and a high percentage of our big success
Hmm.
stories are women. Do you find the
I
same thing?
do. Yeah, absolutely. I do. I don't know that I've never really been asked, and I know you're not asking, but I am a little bit, in terms of the why behind that. Um, you know, I'm not 100% on that because there's so much money to be made. And men are mostly bottom line. They're like, tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it, and be motivated. They're motivated by the money. Um, but there are just exceptionally a lot of women that are succeeding in this business.
Can I hazard a guess?
Yes, I would love to hear your
I
guess.
think it's because I think it's because predominantly women are interested in people,
Mm,
and they are nurturers,
mm,
and they
yeah, that
typically
makes
are
sense.
there wanting to actually help the people that are below them. They're not thinking of what's in it for me. They
Mhm,
generally aren't thinking of how
mhm,
can I help you.
mhm,
And I think it comes from the whole sort of, let's call it the mothering instinct, or
mhm.
whatever you want to call it, the maternal instinct. So when you have these recruits, your children in your
Yeah,
business, there's a sense of wanting to nurture them. I think guys tend to be bottom line oriented, and so they're just pulling people in. They're not trying to nurture them. And I'm being generalizing here,
yeah,
and I'm guessing. So
yeah,
please don't pillory me.
yeah,
But I think that could be large, to a large extent, why that is the truth.
yeah.
The top earners in our industry tend to be couples,
Right.
and so husband and
Yeah.
wives who do this together tend to just be off the chart successful.
Yes.
And I think it's because there you've got both
You
sides
got
of
the balance. Yeah.
the story.
Hmm.
You got the balance. And we find in our sort of on our data that the couples
Hmm.
are just unbelievably
Hmm.
successful. Um, yeah, so that kind of would be my
Yeah,
guess. But as I say,
it's so
please,
logical. You're right. It makes so much sense. The business mind of me was trying to answer that question, but you're right. The heart side of me definitely sees that to be, so true. Hmm.
yeah. And it's, I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, it's for me. I ran a company called Acorn Kids, which was, we had 10,000, not a single guy,
Mm,
10,000 women in the business selling children's bath products.
mm,
And it always blew me away how these women would just blossom in our
mm,
business and earn the most incredible amounts of money, and just grow in such
mm.
phenomenal ways. And I always said to my wife, this seems to me a business that really does bring women into their own in
Mhm.
a very real way,
Yeah.
and frees them up to still have their families,
Yeah.
still be with their children, still have their home lives. And because they're in control of their own timelines, are able to sort of have it all. They can have the financial success, and they can have the business success and all the recognition that goes with it, while still having all of the family life that they need. And I think that was your story, if I can,
Mhm.
if I judge correctly.
Yeah, it really was. It was I really was that scenario of woman comes in, working full-time job but not making, really what her potential was, have kids at home, very far in debt. I had married my husband and I had married our debt, and we wanted out. We wanted out. And so, yeah, to be able to say that, you walked out of that, you were free, and then you're home every day with your children. um it's such a blessing. Yeah,
And that goes back to your comment of choose your heart,
that's right. Choose your heart.
because it's much harder to get up every
Mm,
morning and leave your kids behind and go to a job than it is to put the effort in that's required to make one of these businesses really work for you.
yep, it's so true.
Yeah, it's what excites me about this business. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people out there who will, I call it the barrel of crabs. I don't know if you've ever heard the story. If you've got a barrel of crabs, if one crab tries to climb out the barrel, all the other crabs pull them back
Yeah,
down. Do you know about that
I
story?
do.
And so there's a lot of people in our, that our networkers come across who are trying to pull them down. Do you have that experience as well?
Well, I've mostly seen that, unfortunately, with family. I've seen the family or the spouse being the one that is not, that is the skeptic. And I had that situation myself, raised in the time where you were supposed to have a 9 to 5, know how much money you were going to make, pay your bills on time, have insurance, have a 401k, so that you were choosing to secure your future. It's just, here's your box, get in it, and you need to, live this way. And so I did have family, as well meaning as they were begging me not to quit my full-time job and not to quit something going here, and they were very happy for me. um, but some people can't, some people aren't willing to dig in and say, I'm going no matter what. um, and when I'm coaching a woman that doesn't have a supportive spouse, my encouragement to her is, this is time, it's time to get creative. This is, we are women, and if you will make money, you will make money, and you will make it consistently, and show it to him. Don't spend it. I said, don't go buy a pair of shoes. Don't, don't go spend it.
Mm.
Show him, buy him, use the money on him. But, you can convert him, but you've got to make money. And usually that spouse, I see him turn around, obviously earning trips and taking him on trips. That's usually the game changer there.
Yeah, right there. Chill. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also happens the other way around, though.
Mhm.
We've got clients who have got very male centric products,
Uh-huh.
and we find that they have the same problems. Their wife doesn't understand, doesn't get behind them, whatever. They have very similar challenge of trying to uh, um, share with their wives why they are out doing these evening meetings and why they're
Right.
not at home
Right.
at 6 o'clock or whatever, that they're in the field working with their team.
Right.
And it also takes time for them. So I don't think it's only the men that are struggling
Yeah.
to support their wives. I think it works both ways
Absolutely.
for whoever's out there doing something unusual and different. And
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because I have only been in predominantly having female products and products that females sell. That's my experience. But you're right. We look industry wide. It absolutely goes both ways. And communication is also something that I have to teach women, in terms of communicating, helping them understand how he can be a partner and a help. Um, but it's like a trade off. I'll bring in this much money, um, and if you can do bath night 2 nights a week, with the kids, so that
yeah.
communication can make a difference.
No, absolutely, 100%. And obviously, also your team is having to deal with those people that they get out there and they say, would you be interested in doing this business? And people are coming up with terms like it's a pyramid scheme, or
Mhm.
it's a Ponzi scheme, or all of those kind of things that they have to overcome. How do you help your people deal with that?
I try to encourage them to not overreact or to get defensive about it. Because I said, I tell them that when you're defensive, it automatically sends off almost a confirmation that they may be right. But to calmly say, that hasn't been my experience. And if you're open to me sharing,
Oh,
yeah, that
wow.
hasn't been my experience. And if you're open to me sharing with you how it has worked for me and impacted my family, I would love to share that with you. Is that something you would like to hear? Um, so I don't think you should ever push information onto people, and that's just going to put them on the defensive. But just sharing that you haven't had that experience, and you'd love to share more with them. Sometimes that's just a seed. They're not ready at that time to hear more, but continually um, showing your success, sharing your success, um, in a humble way, you can definitely help change people's minds.
Yes, and I mean, the reason that a lot of people are having these experiences is because they've had a bad experience somewhere else. They've been promised things
Exactly.
that weren't delivered or whatever,
Yeah.
and I say to my guys, one of the things you should say to them is, it sounds like you've had a rough
Hmm.
experience with MLM. Can you tell me about
Right.
it? And because they are just looking for an opportunity to share this, whatever experience it
Hmm.
was. And if you empathize with them and you listen to them and you can hear them out, you then have exactly the line, which I love. I think that's a fantastic line. That hasn't been my
Hmm.
experience. And if you care to take the time, I would love to share how this has been for
Hmm.
me, because that way you've actually drawn them out. You find out exactly what horrible experience they've had. You
Yes.
can empathize with them. And then I love that line of yours. You can just ease that line in, and off you go to the races, so
Right.
to say. Now, this next one, and again, I don't want to be controversial here. So all of those haters on the internet, don't pillory me. I ran this, as I said, I ran a big team of ladies. And what I discovered is that specifically amongst the ladies, recognition was a massive
Hmm.
deal.
Hmm.
Massive deal. I found that people would do things for recognition that they wouldn't do for money or for
Oh, yeah.
incentive trips or for anything
Hmm.
else. That they would, to be recognized and to be seen,
Yes.
was such a huge part of what drove our team. Do you find that to be the case?
Absolutely. And I'll take you back to my story, because recognition was pivotal for me to even stay. When I was hitting the obstacles, hitting with the cancellations and that kind of thing, I knew if I sold this much, my name was going to be called. That I was going to be getting this, whatever this ribbon was or whatever this pin was. And it was the first time in my life that I felt seen. And how crazy is that? To be, and there's
Isn't
so
it?
many women that, and it's so unfortunate. It's just really unfortunate that it's not until they're in our industry that it's the first time that they feel like somebody sees them. And so you're right, there is so much power um in that, in seeing women, and just um it it's not just about the memento or that ribbon or the whatever. It's the moment. It's the and then I wanted my name called for this, and it but it's motivating. Yeah.
Isn't it? And what I found is that recognition is the easiest free thing you can do to grow your business, because it costs nothing,
No.
nothing to recognize somebody. It's actually free. I went to an Amway meeting many years ago, and the guy standing at the front said, "I'd like everybody who has signed up 2 people in the last 90 days to please stand up." And a whole lot of people stood up and said, "Right, what I want you to do is I want you to walk down, and I want you to walk across the stage, and I want everybody else to give you a standing
Mm-hmm.
ovation." Now, these people walked down, walked across the stage. The entire audience gave them a standing ovation. I've never seen bigger smiles. The one lady was in tears. I've never seen bigger smiles than what happened there. And it cost
Nothing.
nothing to recognize people's efforts. It's just a case of finding out what they've done and making sure you patting them on the back, saying, "Well done." As you say, giving them a ribbon or a badge or whatever. These things are not expensive, and yet they make such an epic difference. And I find that a lot of companies don't put enough emphasis on
Mm-hmm.
recognition. That's my
Mm-hmm.
experience anyway.
No, I agree with you. The tears that I have personally shed, and then even more years that I've witnessed the emotion that is felt by seeing that experience, the stage crossing, is just it's mind blowing. And each year, I think maybe it'll be less emotional this year. And every year, it's impacting them the exact same, at no matter what level of leadership they're promoting. It's cost the company nothing, and they're playing a beautiful song and a motivational song, and they cross the stage. And then and then when you ask other women, okay, what is your goal for next year? Oh, I have to cross that stage. Not I need to pay off my debt,
Exactly.
not I need to, go on that trip. It's I need to cross that stage. And it's mind blowing.
It's exciting when something like that happens, and especially if it's one of your
Oh yeah.
people that is crossing
Oh
that
yeah.
stage. Then you take
Yeah.
personal ownership on that
Yeah.
person's success. And doesn't that just change
Yeah,
everything?
it is. It's game changing. And then when I was always developing leaders, I would, that was actually one of the things I say. I say, I want you to experience your child walking that stage. The emotion that you felt when you watched it, this will be even greater, and I want you to experience that. And then this is
Oh.
side note, but I'll just throw it in here. I always challenge them, don't ever have one person cross the stage. She can't cross by herself. You always promote at least two at a time. You do everything two or more, you know um, and so that was always where the bar was. We're not just going to promote one leader at a time.
And there's other clever things that you can do to recognize people. For example, everybody who signed up, 2 people, stand up. Right. Who recruited you? Could I have
Oh
you
yeah.
stand up?
Oh yeah.
And that person stands up. Now they are the recruiter of this person who brought in 2 people. And that recognition, I think, is
You're
quite
right.
powerful.
You're right.
And who recruited you? Would you stand up? And after a while, you see everybody in the audience is
Mhm.
standing because we are so interconnected. And that recognition is also so powerful to see, look, this person here who just
Mhm.
joined, who signed up 2 people, comes from this wonderful
Mhm.
support system, etc.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
wouldn't even be here if people were not
If it
sharing.
wasn't for
If we
them.
weren't sharing and we weren't inviting, we wouldn't even be here. Hmm.
Now, you mentioned something else which is also near and dear to my heart, which is incentives. You talked about the travel
Hmm.
incentives. What kind of a big deal is that?
Yeah, it's game changer. Um, I do feel like it's definitely impactful for the consultant. Obviously, he or she gets to go away and experience you know this free thing that most have never done. When they go for their first trip, they've never been to anything all inclusive. They haven't ever had everything paid for, and so it's that first. But I'd also find it's uh, very smart when the company gives that opportunity to take a friend, a guest, a spouse, because that's where the buy-in happens. And where you had one person building the business, you leave an incentive trip, you now have two people that are supporting a business. So I feel like that's where the big bang is for the company, is getting the buy-in of their support system into what they're doing. But I'll throw in my personal story here just so that you know. And I feel like because I experienced it, my passion is that much more that others go. The very first trip that I earned, I didn't even know that I was on track for the trip in the first year of my business. And I think there was 2 months left to earn. And my director said, if you sell this much, you're going to earn a trip. And I was like, what? You can earn trips? Like, didn't even know. And it's I know,
What?
and I don't think
Why didn't you
I
tell me
know. I
earlier?
just don't think she was used to people earning it maybe in their first year, and so she was kind of tracking and like, okay, Amy could really do this, and so I did earn it. So my husband and I go on this trip, and I told you we married our debt, so we were so far in debt we couldn't drive more than 2 hours for our honeymoon, much less get on a plane and go to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico. So here we were at this all-inclusive in Mexico. We didn't even know what to do with ourselves. To be honest with you, Richard, we didn't even know what all-inclusive meant. That's how, and there's so many like this, and so it was the first night, it was the first meal that we were there, and he and I were sitting at the table, and the menu comes. We're looking at prices, and we're like, we're gonna have to split something because we can't afford this. And the waiter noticed pretty quickly what we were doing. And he said, because you have that wristband on, that you can order anything that you want. And then you don't have to pay anything. And he walked away. And I mean, I can still feel the emotion. Like I literally,
You're making me
yeah,
go
I
goosebumps.
literally started just crying, and my husband starts crying, and he just looked at me and he said, I am so proud of you. And like, it was just in that moment
Oh,
that it was like, wow, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were working to pay
I
off
do.
debt. That's why I was doing it. That was my why. But when you're able to sit there, revive your marriage, um, get a break from the kids, and all of that, and experience all that. So now all I want to do is, help other women get that same exact feeling, and be seen in that very special way.
Well, this is an interesting thing that you've brought up because most companies do not allow partners to go on these
Mm,
trips. And they say what they want to do is they want to get their team off. They want to do leadership building
mhm,
with them and team building with them. And they want to do all sorts of fun
mhm,
stuff with them and try and build the spirit in the company. But what you're suggesting is that it's much
mm,
more important that the person's spouse
mm,
experiences this
mm.
getaway so that they actually grow into the business together as a team.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just, in my experience, haven't seen those to. Um, I just find that for them to go and not feel that they need to work, that there's not work involved. The fact is they get there, and the girls are all in one pool and the guys are in one pool, and those girls are just networking and idea sharing, and there is more work done than anything corporate could have ever put together. So work is getting done. But the men are getting to make their relationships and bond in that way. And I kind of feel like you're doing two things at one time, to really just take that vacation approach and just truly reward them, for the efforts.
Well, that is actually it's quite enlightening for
Mm-hmm,
me. That's the first time I've heard that
mm-hmm,
perspective on this, and I think it's a really valid perspective, and it's something that I'm gonna definitely
mm-hmm.
take forward on the business that we're doing. Okay, so incentives don't have to only be a big trip though, because
Yeah.
you can incentivize people in numerous ways. How do you incentivize like a new distributor? How do you peg your incentives, and what kind of incentives do you generally recommend?
At the beginning, I'm always encouraging leaders to keep duplicatable in mind. You don't want to spend a lot of money because you want everyone perceiving your job to be something that they could do. So you've got to make it, at all incentives duplicatable. But whether it is a ribbon or believe it or not, I find even them posting on social, when you post something on their personal post page, so that their friends and family can see what they've done. That to me is taking recognition to another level, because their name's in the spotlight to everyone that they know. So back to what we were saying before, it doesn't have to cost money. It's really about the moment, and the moment you give them, the ways that you see them. When you get into leadership, I think recognizing leaders is another conversation. um, and Because I think there's value to investing in them, in your leadership, because they are making a good percentage of your income. And so I always teach 10%. If the executive level or upper level leadership level, to budget, take 10% of your earnings, your override, um, to reinvest into learning opportunities and incentives for your leaders.
And would you do product incentives? Would you say if you hit this target, we're going to give you this kind
Mhm.
of product, or would you do sort of maybe you get an Apple iPad if you do X, Y, and Z, or you get some business tools. Those kind of incentives come into play.
I don't think that that should happen out of the pocket of the consultant. I think the company is responsible for those carrots, and I think if you promote, you push what the company is doing, you're not layering the incentives, which can get confusing, which can feel overwhelming. So I think it's really great to just truly promote and recognize what they're earning that the company is offering. And then as the leader, it's really again about seeing them publicly, recognizing them and really making it more heartfelt and more sharing of heart and reaching that heart side of them. And then the company can come in with those financial investments. That's my perspective on that.
So what you're saying is that from a team point of view, the team leaders should be recognizing their people, whereas the company should be incentivizing their people. So the recognition is free, incentives are they cost
Mm-hmm.
something. So the team leaders could promote the
Mm-hmm.
incentive, but not have to pay
That's
for it.
that is
That's
the
kind of where
ideal.
you're at
That
with
is
that.
where I feel like the ideal is.
Now, unfortunately, because I could talk to you for another 2 hours, I'm just telling you, I think this is
Yeah.
fantastic. But we are actually getting to the end of the time you've given me. And so I'm going to end off on one last thing, and that is the community aspect of our business. Because for me, it seems to me that our business, our industry is all about community. So I would like you to just speak to that for a moment and how important that community aspect is for you.
Yeah. So I feel like that the more you can create a community and create really just a family in the industry with the team, you are going to be impacting people and giving them a place that they feel they belong. And it's because there's less and less in our society positive places that people can say, I belong here and I belong to this, and I'm needed here. I can contribute here. I can make a difference here. And so when you can create that opportunity, um, it's priceless. And I know I've mentioned retention a lot, but that was one of the things that I was rewarded for a lot. Was I had a very high retention rate, and it was because I put so much effort into connecting people and giving them a play, feeling like they had a place to be. And had numerous women say, I've thought about leaving so many times because of life circumstances, but the thought I could never leave this community, never leave this family. So I'll just keep selling the product because I want to be a part of this.
Stay for the
Yeah,
people.
but
Yeah, it's in
yeah,
the lovely.
and so it's powerful and game changing.
Well, Amy, I know that you gave me this time and I appreciate it. And I don't want to push you over the time because I know you've got other things to attend to. I'd just like to
Yeah,
thank you so very, very much for just spending this time with us. It was absolutely awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. And I can't wait to get this out to everybody out there. And I'll certainly get the link to you as soon as we've got it up on our channel.
wonderful.
And if you can share it with everybody you know, wonderful. So thank you very much
Thank
for
you so
this.
much, Richard. I appreciate the opportunity. I love speaking about this industry and how it's impacted my life and how it can impact so many.
Okay, well, you have a great day, and I'm sure we're going to be talking again
Thank
soon.
you.
You go well. Cheers.